This Tuesday is Election Day. Millions of voters across the country have already cast their ballots. The passage of the VOTES Act here in Massachusetts expanded early voting and no-excuse absentee voting. Joining me now to talk about what's at stake this midterm is Cheryl Crawford. She's Executive Director of MassVote, and Sophia Hall with the Lawyers for Civil Rights. Even with the expansion of voting access, obstacles still remain here in Massachusetts that disproportionately affect Black and Latino voters. Explain how that is still the case, Cheryl.
I know. I cannot believe in 2022 that we're still dealing with these things, but mainly, you know, long lines, disruptions, things of that nature, though that's some form that we're still dealing with. You know, we just went through the whole redistricting process, and behind that is the re-precincting. And I bring that up because that is a subtle way of implementing voter suppression, in my opinion, right? When you have long lines, or if you have people that are outside the line that are causing disruptions and intimidation, things that we still have those kinds of things happening here in Massachusetts across the entire Commonwealth.
Sophia, why do you see that there's still this disproportionate underrepresentation at the polls among Black and Latinos?
To be frank, Massachusetts has not prioritized making voting as easy as breathing yet, and it really does need to still do some work. In addition to the things that Cheryl has shared, I mean, we're also still just seeing people having to jump through hoops to be able to vote. We should not have registration deadlines that end far before elections. We don't have same-day registration yet in Massachusetts. We also require people to do work like surveys and things to keep their voting rights active, and that is not something that should exist in Massachusetts as a progressive state.
A 2021 report from MassVote found that areas with higher numbers of Black and brown residents have seen significantly lower voter turnout. About 90% of voters in some wealthy, heavily white towns cast ballots in the 2020 election, while less affluent, more diverse cities saw turnout as low as 55%.
Exactly. It's definitely disproportionate. And, you know, we were ranting and raving about mail-in ballots, and mail-in ballots did work, and it increased the number, but not in our communities. There was all this, you know, intimidation around the mailing system back in 2020. Nobody was putting their ballot in the mail. People were going in person. So mail-in ballots did not work in communities of color, low income, and new citizens in the way that it's like the way they show how it increased the numbers.
Sophia, how is Lawyers for Civil Rights helping voters understand their new rights under the VOTES Act?
Absolutely. So we are putting on community presentations now to give highlights about what the VOTE Act does and what still needs to happen in our state. But in addition to that, we are going to be running a statewide hotline on Election Day to be able to assist voters. So 1-866-OUR-VOTE, you'll get a volunteer in real time that'll make sure you can cast a meaningful ballot. And our partners here at MassVote and others will be on the ground helping voters.
Now, we've seen some incidents about intimidation at the polls in other states. We haven't seen that yet here in Massachusetts, but we shouldn't take it for granted. Voter security still a concern. You manage, Sophia, the largest and oldest nonpartisan election protection campaign in New England. Talk about the training that's going on.
Certainly. So Lawyers for Civil Rights is mobilizing volunteers, attorneys, and non-legal folks all across the state to ensure that they know the new law and that they are able to give advice to voters on Election Day. You know, we unfortunately did see people in trucks with Trump hats, with, you know, turning away Black Lives Matter signs in the last presidential cycle. So we can't take for granted that we might see those intimidation factors. We're preparing our people on the ground and our government officials to respond appropriately, or we'll be bringing lawsuits.
Cheryl, what should one do if you face confrontation at the polls?
Absolutely. They should dial 1-866-OUR-VOTE, OURVOTE. It is our vote. We're there to make sure that you're able to cast your ballot without feeling intimidated on the inside or the outside, and that you know all of your rights. You know the fact that if you speak a different language, you absolutely can bring somebody else in the ballot with you, right, to cast your ballot. So that's our job, is to just make sure that people...
What kinds of things, though, should people look out for? How do they know that they're being suppressed in the moment?
Anything that makes a person uncomfortable. I know that doesn't sound like a legal test, but it isn't. It's a human one, right? You should be able to participate in the democratic process no matter the color of your skin. And if anything, if it's somebody wearing partisan materials, if it's somebody saying something to you, if it's a crowd too close to the door so you don't feel comfortable walking in, all of those are illegal factors. The things that make your ears perk up, that make the hair on the back of your neck pick up, those are things that are intimidation, and those are things you should call 1-866-OUR-VOTE about.
Let me ask you both about a question on the ballot. There are 4 voter questions on the ballot this year, but one of the more debated is question 4. If the measure passes starting July 1st, 2023, legal immigration status will no longer be necessary for a driver's license, but Governor Baker has raised some election security issues around this, saying it's an issue, saying the law would restrict the state's ability to make sure only citizens are voting, especially due to the automatic enrollment of voters while obtaining a driver's license. First, is this a viable argument? And second, why is the question on the ballot if it's already been passed by lawmakers? Sophia.
I mean, there has never been a real defense to security or fraud concerns around voting in any measure. There's similarly not a defense here when you talk about people having municipal IDs to be able to live their lives and function effectively. This is at a very simple level that people don't think everyone deserves the right to function in society because of the countries that they come from, because of their immigration status.
Cheryl?
I think that people should have that right? We want to make it safer for everybody. If you get in a car accident, don't you want to have some recourse, somewhere to go, right? Like if they don't have insurance, then how can you file a claim if someone hit you inappropriately? And plus, it teaches them the rules of the road. They should know how to drive. They go to work. Everybody works here. You need a way to get there. I agree. We should have it.
Very good. Cheryl Crawford, Executive Director of Mass Vote, and Sophia Hall with the Lawyers for Civil Rights. Thank you for joining us.